Council is hereby called to order. Please rise for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, is a body we congregate in these council chambers. We pray for thy divine guidance that we may do all things well, according to thy holy will. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bond.
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Ms. Stevenson. Mrs. Hannerhan.
Here.
Mr. Sanker. Mr. Brady.
Here.
Do we have 5 members present? Mr. Sanker is on his way, so we will note when he arrives. And Ms. Stevenson did notify me that she is out of town for work, so we will go ahead and proceed. Before we do proceed, item F is the consideration of the resolution, and I want to point out that the title of the resolution as it appears on the agenda has the communication from the Safety Service Director, and it should be the Service Safety Director. So we can't amend the agenda per se because we can only deal with what is on the agenda, but I just want to make that note that on the header of the resolution and in the resolution itself, it says Service Safety Director. So with that notation, we'll move on to item E, which is discussion of communication sent by the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police on April 25th, 2019. This meeting is called because 3 members of council requested that be done. And according to council rules, when 3 members of council request a special meeting, then we are required to have it. And so that's why we are here. So thank you. I will turn it over to you for discussion. Mrs. Hannerhan.
Thank you, Madam President. Is there someone here who could read the letters so that people who are watching understand what we're talking about and why we're here? I do not have a copy of it with me.
I may have it on email. You can check and see. I'm sure it's still on social media. Do you want the clerk to read it, or do you want to read it?
The clerk is fine, thank you.
Please go ahead.
And this was addressed to Mr. Bonzall. James, can you advise when we are open? Correct. So the Service Safety Director is courtesy copied on this email. James, can you advise when we are okay to go ahead with moving forward on the purchase of new cruisers and how we plan on financing? While the Fords won't be available until September, the sooner we get our order in, the better we will be. Thanks, William Kramer, Chief of Police, Norwood, Ohio. And then the following was a response from the Service Safety Director. Chief, I would hope that you remember from years past that an official quote is needed to do a requisition. Also, if the officers would be more concerned about their driving, maybe the number of total police cars would slow down. Since there is very little that they can do, they should be able to spend more time being concerned about their driving. Finally, I hope you understand that the world and the city doesn't center around your department. Thanks, Joe.
Mrs. Hannerhan?
I'll start, I don't mind. And I've already stated this, but I'll state it again, that I believe when it comes to a city, the first order of business at any level of government is to provide for the safety of its citizens. The police department, like with the fire and other departments in the city, is here to provide that safety and security. I beg to disagree that the city does not revolve around the police department, as well as the other departments that provide city services. The statement was not understandable coming from our Safety Service Director. This email was highly provocative and serves no useful purpose. From what I can see, this email contributes to the hostile work environment for the police department and even beyond the police department. I am here to support the police, fire, and all other departments and employees that work for this city. I'll just say this is not the way to treat people who work in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hannerhan. Mr. Bonsall.
Thank you, Madam President. So, the concern here is the tone and language of the email that was sent by the Service Safety Director. We're going to consider a resolution today, and the wording, I think, is well done to communicate kind of exactly what needs to be communicated. And part of that is that there have been disagreements between council, the city administration, and members of the Norwood Police Department. However, as the resolution will say, it doesn't mean that we don't have respect and pride for the work that's done, even though there sometimes are disagreements. So, it's unfortunate that the email was sent. It's unfortunate that I think the email probably represents a more deeply held kind of frustration. And I wish that we all can do a better job of communicating clearly and just addressing the issues instead of having them addressed in emails like we just heard.
Thank you, Mr. Bonsall. Is there any other discussion? We will then move on to item F, and that is a resolution condemning a communication from the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police and reaffirming council's support for the city employees. And the chair will note that Mr. Sanker is in council chambers. Thank you, Mr. Sanker. So we're just moving on to consideration of the resolution. Mr. Bonsall.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that we have all three readings of the resolution.
Seconded by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bonsall.
Or would you like to?
It's your
Yes, sure.
it's your motion. You have
Yeah.
first right of speaking, and then I'll call on Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President.
According to council rules. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So the reason I made the motion to have all three readings is so that we can kind of get this addressed and moving forward from here. Even if a council member was thinking about voting against the resolution, I would recommend voting for the readings just so that we can move forward from here. So I think that it's good for us to have all three readings tonight. I think it's would help the process move forward quicker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonsall. Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, just to follow up on what some other people said. Now that we're considering the resolution, I just want to acknowledge that we all realize that the city is in a fiscal situation, and that does sometimes cause tempers to flare, and we're not always in agreement with each other, and oftentimes we're completely at odds with each other. But that's not an excuse for doing these kinds of communications that sow discord and dysfunction within the city, which is why I think ultimately we brought this. We're not trying to specifically call a person out or anything like this. It's the tone and the feeling behind the communication that we find questionable, and that's why we've come here with this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Braden?
Thank you, Madam President. I've got a few concerns. I don't know that it's our place to. I don't think I need a resolution for our police department to know that I personally support 100% our safety service departments. So my issue is that so if this just said that we support our police, then I would support that. But I'm having a hard time with condemning a city employee when I feel it's not my position. I don't believe it's our authority. So I'm having a hard time. I don't want my no vote to seem like I'm not supporting this police department, because I believe the people in this department know they're people that I know and I love and I graduated and these people are friends of mine and I don't need this for you to know that I support 100% this department. But I'm having an issue with condemning. I feel like it's not our place. So I'm having a hard time with relaying exactly what I'm trying to say here, but I'm just having issues with this, and I want us to express that in a way that's the only way I know how. It's my understanding that the cruisers that we're talking about, I believe they're already approved. So I think these are going to be. We are going to, and if this resolution said, do we approve cruisers for? I'm not voting no against that. So, and it's my understanding that it's already been approved. So. If this said that we support our police department 100%, my vote would be yes. But to condemn another man in this resolution, I'm having an issue with that. So, can anybody help me with that?
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Braden. Just as a matter of clarity, it says council condemns the email.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I just
let's
want to
just
point
quote-
that out. So
thank you. I appreciate that, Madam President, and I'd like to quote you in saying that I'm not having no interest in spreading that butter.
here we go.
Okay. So, I want to say that I support this police department 100%. So, until you call on me, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm seriously leaning on either way here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. I understand. Mr. Bonsall.
Thank you, Madam President. So I think that we should read the resolution in its entirety at some point. I'd like to amend my motion to have all three readings with the first in its entirety.
Mr. Thompson, do you accept that? Thank you. So it's amended now to suspend the rules and have the first reading in its entirety and second and third by caption. Mr. Bonsall.
Thank you, Madam President. So I think it is important to note council's role here, and I think it was noted by a previous speaker. And I appreciate Mr. Braden kind of bringing this up. So council has no authority to discipline or add anything to anybody's official record of any employee under the mayor. We are able to make our voice heard through motions and resolutions, and when applicable, ordinances that need to get passed. We approve our budgetary figures. We approve appropriations, but we have no other authority other than to make our voice known through either resolutions or a motion somehow. So that is why this resolution is here before us, because it's the first step and really one of the only steps that council has to initiate any kind of expression of our voice. The second point on here is that even though council has approved appropriations for 2 police cruisers, and before the safety service director responded to the police chief, I replied all to that email, letting him know that the safety service director is the ultimate decider, but that yes, it was council's intent to fund 2 police cruisers in the appropriations. It doesn't mean the police cruisers will get purchased if the city administration doesn't act on that. They still have to sign the purchase orders and they still have to go through the process. And the police chief in that email was asking what step does the safety service director want taken next. And so even though the cruisers are approved, there's no guarantee that they're coming unless the city administration ensures that they sign the POs and gets the rest of the stuff done. So I just want that noted as well. But this is literally just our voice. And when the resolution is read, I think it'll be pretty clear that it's a balanced resolution. It acknowledges that everything is not just perfect, but that we should still treat everybody with respect.
Thank you, Mr. Bonsall. Mr. Sanker.
Yes, Madam President. A couple things to Mr. Bonsal's response. Resolutions, yes, are a way for council to express whether you want to call it displeasure or support of. However, if it's and when it's approved, it looks as if, unless you read each person's vote, it looks as if the entire whole council approves a resolution and was in favor of it. As Mr. Braden said, there's not anyone here, sitting here, would not be in support of our police department. I mean, we've known them for years, some of us more than others, but it's not something anybody would not have support of. And so that said, as Mr. Breeden said, however, the only reason that I would vote in favor of having all three readings was be to get it the hell out of here. I don't want to hear about it again. I don't want to see these people here again. It does them no good. It does us no good. It does the city no good to drag this out for 3 meetings, having 3 readings of a resolution that I feel shouldn't even be here. I mean, they do a hell of a job. And I don't want to drag this city and look like there's so contentiousness between council members, because there's not. And I do not want 2 more meetings of that type of atmosphere around here. It's not good for anybody. And this is not generating, obviously, good PR, as we can see. On the other hand, when I look at my displeasure in the whole scenario is that the original email that I read was a correspondence between yourself. There were 3 people on the correspondence, I believe. The responding email, there were only 2 people on the responding email. What I'm disappointed is that an interoffice correspondent between 2 personnel members within the city would be subject to scrutiny and sent out over social media for the whole world to enjoy, criticize, and have no clue what they're talking about. That's what I'm disappointed in. I think it's unprofessional and irresponsible on either party to send something like that out where it's an interpersonal, interdepartment communication. I'm disappointed that we tried to criticize city, administration, departments, whatever, through social media. It serves no purpose. It does no good. So I just feel the reason we're here is because of the way that was handled. It was a correspondence between 2 individuals. That correspondence now is between the whole world of social media. Granted, it's a public record, and we can do whatever we want. But there's things called professional responsibility that we should take upon ourselves to think we're a little bit above this. Granted, the verbiage in the email may have been a little direct and may not have been penned in the most eloquent manner. Could have been more eloquently said. That being said, I don't think it's justified to be sending that out for the whole world to see. That's my disappointment. That's my displeasure. But I just want this the hell out of here. Pardon my French. I just want it off of this agenda permanently. I don't want it to be seen again. We don't need it. Enough said. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanker. Mr. Thompson.
I understand where you're coming from. I would like to ask show of hands. I know we don't typically do that thing, but who here actually supports the tone in the email by the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police? Does anybody actually support that tone? Does anybody think that was well said or responsibly professional in its wording and its tone? That's what's in question here. It's not, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Maybe should not have ever gone to social media. It's a public record. We don't have an HR department to handle these kinds of internal things. So one of the things is it falls to council to have to deal with these kinds of things. One of the reasons is because we represent the people of this city. And the people of this city are very upset about this. It doesn't matter necessarily that we don't want to deal with it and that we want it off of our plates. Yeah, I don't want to have to deal with this kind of stuff. But I also don't want to have to know that these kinds of things are being sent to actual subordinate employees by people who are in charge of them. At my pace of business, we would never do that. Those kind of people will be taken care of. And I'm not saying we need to do that here. All we're saying is that this is an inappropriate way to communicate to somebody within our city. I'm happy to get this off of our table right now. We have no HR department. We do have a professional responsibility to deal with this because of that fact. I understand the anger. I understand the displeasure. This is not an attack on any one person. It is a displeasure of the tone of an email, and that's why we're here.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Sanker?
Yes, Madam President, it was mentioned that if this was done at anybody other's job, that person would be reprimanded or gone. However, the same response would happen to anybody that would send this out, anything from a superior or even a subordinate. If that would go out at anybody here's company, and for that to ridicule, I don't want to say ridicule, that's a bad word, but to criticize or whatever, just to get back at somebody because of the tone of a letter or something that you perceived that you didn't like it, your boss would fire your fanny. Everybody's boss in here would do the same thing because of that type of behavior. So it kind of cuts both ways.
Thank you, Mr. Sanker. Mr. Braden?
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of points. I feel like that if we, I don't, tensions are not, I don't want to get clashes with anybody here today, but I feel like if we speak out, we're speaking out against the police department, and I really shouldn't feel that way. The people know me, know that you asked me a question, I can tell you, no one's against, this is just, from what I can tell, there's 24 hours from the one email to another. So are there several other ones? I haven't seen any other emails. What other things were said during this conversation between two adults? Me personally, I'm not condoning any type of tone. But as far as someone who hires people and fires people on a daily basis, sometimes it gets a little, between two adults, and you have to, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying he did the right thing. I'm saying that these are two adults. I couldn't have said it any better, Mr. Sanker. It shouldn't have been out there. I wished I would have had that point, but I didn't. So anyway, that's my point. There's 24 hours in between those two emails. What else was said? I'd like to know that. I'm not voting. If I don't know where I'm voting yet, because it's troubling me that I even have to look at this. But whatever it is, it's not a referendum against the police department. I can tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. Mrs. Hanrahan?
Thank you, Madam President. And I do understand Mr. Sanker's point, but unfortunately it did get out.
Move your mic.
Oh.
Thank you.
As I said, I do understand Mr. Sanker's feelings, but unfortunately it did get out. And I believe that I had a responsibility to address this as a council person. I think this letter reflects on all of us, not just the administration. And I am not sorry we called this meeting. I'm not sorry we did this. I think that, like I said, it was our responsibility to support. I would also like to address something that was in the letter about police cruisers being totaled. There were 3 police cruisers totaled this year. One of them was at the officer's fault. However, you must take into consideration that these are older vehicles. It was probably a Crown Vic, I believe, which means it's a lot, they're not worth as much, so it's a lot easier to call them totaled. But there were 3 totaled, only 1 at officer's fault. And with the amount of time, our officers are out there 24/7. I don't know that that's such a bad record. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hanrahan. Is there any other discussion? If not, the motion on the floor is to suspend the rules, have all 3 readings, and the first in its entirety. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Montville?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hanrahan?
Yes.
Mr. Sanker?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Please have all three readings and the first in its entirety.
Resolution condemning a communication from the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police and reaffirming council's support for the city employees. Whereas the Service Safety Director is hired by and serves at the pleasure of the mayor, and whereas on April 25th, 2019, the Service Safety Director sent a condescending email to the Chief of Police where he exhibited a lack of esteem for the professionalism and years of service of the Chief of Police. And whereas there have been disagreements between the city administration, city council, and representatives from the Norwood Police Department. And whereas such disagreements should in no way alter the pride and appreciation for the work that members of the Norwood Police Department perform. And whereas our police officers and all city employees do an outstanding job with the resources available to them to keep the city of Norwood safe. And whereas all employees of the city, especially members of city leadership, should treat each other with respect. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Norwood, State of Ohio, that Section 1, Council hereby condemns the April 25th, 2019 email sent to the Chief of Police by the Service Safety Director. Section 2, Council requests a letter of apology be written by the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police. Section 3, we reaffirm our support of the women and men that serve our citizens as police officers, firefighters, dispatchers, public works employees, and all other employees that serve the citizens of Norwood with honor and dignity. Resolution condemning a communication from the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police and reaffirming council support for city employees. Resolution condemning a communication from the Service Safety Director to the Chief of Police and reaffirming council support for city employees.
Mr. Bonsall,
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the resolution be passed.
seconded by Mrs. Hanrahan. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzall,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hanrahan,
Yes.
Mr. Sanker,
No.
Mr. Breeden.
No.
By a vote of 4-2, the motion carries. We have one absent member, Mr. Bonsall,
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we excuse the absent member.
seconded by Mrs. Hanrahan. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzall,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hanrahan,
Yes.
Mr. Sanker,
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Mr. Bonsall,
I move we adjourn.
seconded by Mrs. Hanrahan. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzall,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hanrahan,
Yes.
Mr. Sanker,
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. This special meeting is hereby adjourned.